This project has been over 2 years in the making, and I'm happy to finally be able to share it with you. This train takes just over 10,000 pieces, and yes, I am actually making instructions for it. This is by far the biggest project I've ever made instructions for. What you're looking at is the Coast Daylight. It was a passenger train run by the Southern Pacific Railroad between Los Angeles and San Francisco, California. It is perhaps one of the most iconic trains in the world. It is a 10-car consist modeled after the actual cars the Daylight would have run with back in 1941. The curve that you see it taking right now is R88, which is the minimum curve radius. What ultimately decided this minimum curve was a combination of me wanting something close to R104, and the spacing between the cars is perfect for R88. Interestingly, some cars have Jacobs bogies. Some of those have 2 axles and others have 3 axles. With this many cars, bearing axles are basically a must, because Technic axles would add way too much friction. And then we have the locomotive itself, the Southern Pacific 4449 GS4. In my opinion, this is the best model I've made to date, with many advanced techniques that I've only ever applied in this build. That said, this is a very sturdy build. I can lift it up without any worries that something might fall off. Most of the train is also a purist build, but there are some exceptions. The number 11 XL drivers, then there's the 8 Big Bend Bricks style wheels under the tender, the bearing axle wheels under all 10 cars, and the magnets are not official Lego, because Lego magnets will pull apart at even the slightest acceleration. Let's take a moment to appreciate what kind of speed this thing is able to run at. This is all using standard Lego power functions. And how I achieve this is simple. It uses not 1, but 2 battery boxes and 2 IR receivers. This is not something that I had tried before with regular power functions, and one concern that I had was that they might go out of sync. But from testing, this has not been a problem at all. And I would say that the red button on the remote helps for the few times that you try to get it to stop when they are out of sync. The tender actually has 2 train motors, and the locomotive has 2 L motors, which are geared for top speed with a 5:3 gear ratio. Originally, I had planned to use these quote-unquote not PF motors in red. They have a higher power output and also slightly higher top speed than the Lego L motors. This works well because the train motors in the tender are happy to push the locomotive to go even faster. Another bonus is that they are also a lot cheaper, only a few euros a piece on AliExpress. I just want to mention that all of the footage you see in the video is using the genuine Lego motors and Lego power functions. I'll probably make a separate video showcasing the speed with the red not PF motors sometime in the future. I put a lot of thought into the wiring, which is always one of the trickier parts. I think I managed quite well. The wires have plenty of space, and that makes building a lot easier. I would also say that the wiring in this Daylight locomotive is significantly easier than that of my Union Pacific Big Boy, for those of you who built that one. For a train that has 2 battery boxes, it is actually really nice to operate. You simply lift off the top to access the power buttons. And to remove the battery boxes, you lift off the other section, disconnect the wires, and, well, there it is. Putting it back together is equally simple. While we are looking at the tender, let's also look at its trucks. So these are train motors with a brick-built decorative side. I tried my best to make it look like there are 3 axles per truck and hide the fact that these are actually, in fact, train motors. Creating these decorative sides from bricks is notoriously difficult, caused by the lack of studs on the side and the overall shape of a train motor. With that said, I'm quite happy with how they turned out, and I don't think I could have done any better. It is very sturdy for its thickness, it's super low profile, and it actually doesn't protrude out to the sides much at all. At its widest point, it's only 7.8 bricks wide. Let's have another look at the 10 cars. They might look very similar to one another, but almost every single one is unique and was built individually. This is one of the reasons why this project has taken so long. The spdaylight.net website was my main source of information. It nicely documents each type of car with information such as length and a side profile. This is mainly what I based my designs on. The actual consist of 1941 was even longer, being 16 cars in total. As you can see here, there would have been an additional 6 articulated chair cars, while I built only 2, so there would have been 8 in total. Me making only 2 of them, that was a choice of practicality, because as it stands the train is already very long. And at least with these 10 cars, each unique car is present at least once, and that was most important to me. And I will include an extra part list so that if you really wanted to, you could order parts for the extra articulated chairs as well. One of the design aspects I wanted to achieve was to be able to see through the windows from one side to the other. Because of the sideways construction of these windows, a common problem is for the body to sag or not be very strong, or for the windows to be easily pushed out of alignment. To solve this, I added multiple vertical braces using brackets, which essentially lock the whole thing together. The placement of these braces are different in each car, because the windows are also different on each one. And I decided not to do interiors. Not only does this lower the already high part count, but I don't think there would have been enough height for minifigures in the first place. As I mentioned earlier, the cars barely clear R88, and as such I also designed the Locomotive to run on minimum R88. I've tried R72 for both the Locomotive and cars, but neither are able to run on it. I'm sure you could make the Locomotive work for tighter curves, but not without some modifications. As for the wheel arrangement of said Locomotive, this is what it looks like. The 2 trucks are double jointed. I intentionally placed the flange driver towards the rear so that there would be minimal overhang in the back. This is important because of the way the wires are routed from the cabin to the tender. Even without that reason, this turned out to be perhaps the best wheel arrangement, since now the overhang in the front and back are quite balanced. I want to mention a few standout building techniques that I used. Overall, there's a ton of studs not on top construction, and the front of the Locomotive was very important to get right. The 5x5 dish piece is a classic part usage. I'm not 100% certain he was the first, but I will give credit to Tony Sava, who made the legendary GS4 Daylight back in 2012. His build is what inspired me to build my own Daylight, and I think his still holds up today, especially considering the limited part selection back then. I have iterated on his nose design by using the 6x6 brake disc. This piece has 6 mini studs on it that stick out by 1 LDU. I built the nose in a way so that these tiny studs have a place to fall into, eliminating any gaps from the side. And the dish piece covers the studs in the front. Another building technique I'm proud of is the gradual slope in the boiler. This slope raises the height by 1 plate in 4 steps, so a quarter plate offset per step. Lastly, I'd like to mention the curved roof of the observation car. It gradually goes from 8 wide to 7 wide, and that combined with the rounded sidewalls gives a really nice effect. As I said earlier, this is all using standard LEGO power functions. If you choose to use imitation, not PF receivers, they can actually be hidden inside the tender since they don't require line of sight. To accommodate this, I made it so that you can actually remove a few parts from under the IR receivers and then use those same parts on top of the receivers to make it look completely seamless. Then, as a final bonus feature, the rear truck of the Locomotive uses 2 regular train wheel sets from LEGO. These 2 can be replaced by the new FX Bricks 9V power pickups. The white 2x4 plate in the inventory should then be replaced by an electric 9V plate. And you'll need a long 9V cable. With that, you can actually run the train on 9V track without needing any batteries. I only own half a circle of R104 FX track, but that was enough to give it a quick test run. Even with just the Lego 9V speed regulator, it was still able to pull all 10 cars, albeit quite slow. Without the cars, the top speed is close to that when using batteries. A simple solution would be to use a more powerful 9V speed regulator, like the one FX Bricks released just a few weeks ago. With that one, top speed should be very good. I'll try to get the instructions on Rebrickable as soon as possible, hopefully in a week or two. With that said, this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching and hope to see you again soon.